Welcome to the channel.
I never thought this would happen to me. Shelley and I had it all. We were the couple who everyone thought was perfect. We'd been dating for 3 years, planning to get married, and honestly, I thought she was the one. Things were easy between us, until I got promoted. It wasn't a huge move, just a transfer to another department in a different location, but it changed everything. At first, I thought nothing of it. A new job, a little more distance between us. We'd talk on the phone every night, and I'd make sure to send her sweet texts and surprise her with little gifts when I could. Shelley always told me how proud she was of me, how she'd be waiting for me when I got home. I felt lucky. But slowly, things started to shift. It started small. I noticed she'd spend more time texting, but I didn't think much of it. We were busy, right? She had her own career to focus on. Then came the posts on social media, selfies with her colleagues, smiling at dinners out. Specifically, one person kept showing up in the background. Smith, her senior at work. He was this older, confident guy, the kind who could make any woman feel special, and he seemed to be around a lot. I brushed it off. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But then things got weird. Shelley started to mention Smith a lot more, how he was helping her with projects, how they grabbed lunch together at work, how she was planning to cook him lunch because he was so busy. She even tagged him in posts, as if they were best friends. I started feeling uneasy, but I didn't want to be that guy, you know? The jealous, insecure boyfriend. So, I kept it to myself, but the discomfort was growing. One evening, I decided to ask her straight up. "Are you and Smith spending a lot of time together?" I asked casually, trying not to sound accusatory. She just laughed it off. "You're being silly," she said. "He's just a colleague, nothing more." But I wasn't convinced. There was something in the way she said it, something that felt rehearsed. Still, I trusted her. I had to. We had a good relationship, right? I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. So, I let it go for a while. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next few weeks were a blur. I was settling into my new role, trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to Shelley and Smith. I'd ask about her day, and she'd talk about him like he was some kind of superhero. "Smith helped me with a big presentation today," she'd say, her eyes lighting up. "He's just so smart." I was happy she had someone she could look up to at work, but every time she mentioned him, a knot would form in my stomach. It wasn't normal, right? To talk about a coworker like that? Maybe I was overthinking it. But my gut was telling me something wasn't right. Then, one evening, everything came crashing down. Shelley had told me she'd be in a meeting with her team, so I decided to stop by the office on my way home, surprise her with a little snack, and maybe grab dinner together afterward. I figured it'd be a nice gesture, keep the spark alive, you know? When I arrived at the office cafeteria, I didn't expect to see what I saw. There she was, sitting across from Smith, laughing and sharing a plate of food. They were close, too close. Their heads were practically touching as they leaned in to talk, and I could tell by the way she looked at him, the way they both smiled, that this wasn't just about work. My heart sank. I stood there for a moment, frozen, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was the same woman who, just a week ago, told me I was the only one for her. The same woman who insisted nothing was going on between her and Smith. I felt my chest tighten, and before I could stop myself, I walked right out of the cafeteria. I was pissed, but mostly hurt. How could she lie to my face like that? How long had this been going on? Was I just the fool who didn't see it? I didn't confront her right away. I needed to process it, figure out what the hell I was going to say. But I knew one thing for sure. Shelley had been lying to me, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. When I finally saw her later that night, I played it cool. She was bubbly, excited to tell me about her day, but I wasn't having any of it. I asked her again, trying to sound casual. So how was your meeting with Smith? Her face faltered for just a second, but then she smiled and shrugged. It was fine, just a boring work thing. Nothing to worry about. I couldn't believe her. She wasn't even good at lying. It was like she didn't even care that I knew something was off. But I played along. I didn't want to blow up the situation right then. Not yet. But I was done. I had seen the truth with my own eyes. Now, I just needed to gather more evidence to make sure she didn't get away with this. After that day, everything felt different. I started noticing more details I hadn't before. The late nights at work, the unexplained phone calls, and the fact that Shelley started acting distant. She'd be texting on her phone constantly, but whenever I'd walk into the room, she'd quickly put it down, acting like it was no big deal. It was subtle, but I saw it. It's like I was living with someone who was slowly becoming a stranger. The little things that used to bring us close now felt like red flags. I asked her about her plans for the weekend, and she told me she was going to grab lunch with the team. But something didn't sit right. Smith was always part of that team. It wasn't a group thing anymore. It was always him and her. The way she kept brushing off my questions, the way she spoke about him like he was her best friend, it was becoming too obvious. I had to know the truth. But I didn't want to make a scene. I wasn't that guy. I didn't want to accuse her of something without being sure. So, I started tracking her whereabouts. It felt wrong, but at this point, I had no choice. I was losing my mind. My once confident, loving fiancé was turning into someone I didn't recognize. One Friday, Shelley told me she had a work event, a dinner she needed to attend. She was too busy to chat before she left, so she kissed me goodbye and was out the door in a hurry. But something about the way she hurried made me suspicious. I decided to follow her. Not literally, but I checked her location on her phone. Yes, I know, I'm not proud of it. And there she was, right at the office building. But when I checked a little later, it was even worse. She was at a bar, and Smith was with her. I knew it wasn't just a work thing. They were laughing together, sitting so close it looked like they were on a date. My stomach twisted. The anger bubbled up, but mostly I felt sick. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Here I was, sitting at home, alone, while Shelley was with him, someone she'd sworn was just a friend. She'd lied to me again. I waited for her to come home. By the time she walked through the door, I was pacing, my mind racing. I confronted her, unable to keep it in anymore. "Where were you?" I asked, my voice tight. She looked surprised, like she hadn't expected me to call her out. "I told you, a work dinner." I shook my head. "Don't lie. I know you were with Smith. I saw you." Her face dropped for a split second, but she quickly recovered, trying to spin it. "It's not what you think. He's just a friend. We were talking about work. You're overreacting." But I wasn't overreacting anymore. I wasn't buying it. "Don't tell me that, Shelley. I've seen the way you look at him, the way you act around him, and you've been lying to me. So don't try to make me feel like the bad guy here." She just stared at me for a moment, and then she sighed, rolling her eyes. "Oh my God, you're ridiculous. Smith is just a colleague. Why are you making this into something it's not?" At that moment, I knew she was never going to admit it, not to me, not to herself. She was in denial, and it wasn't going to be easy to break through it. But I also knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her keep lying to me, especially not after everything I'd seen. I was going to find out the truth, even if it meant having to make her face it. The next few days were a blur of emotions. Shelley's excuses started to sound more and more like the same old script. "I told you, "We were just talking about work," she'd say, or, "You're overreacting, nothing's happening." But my gut told me everything I needed to know. I couldn't shake the image of her with Smith. The way they sat so close at the bar, the way she laughed at his jokes like she was enjoying herself more than she ever did when we were out together. It was eating at me, and I needed answers. So, I decided to follow her again. I wasn't proud of it, but at that point, I was desperate to know the truth. I had a sick feeling in my stomach, like I was chasing after something that might destroy me. But I didn't care. I had to know if she was really lying or if I was just being paranoid. One day, she told me she had a lunch meeting with her team. I didn't buy it. I waited until she left, then I hopped into my car and drove to her office. I parked a few streets away and watched. I didn't know what I was expecting to see. Maybe I thought I'd catch her just having a casual lunch. Maybe it would all be innocent. But then I saw it. Shelley walking out of the building, and there was Smith right beside her. Not only were they walking together, but they were holding hands. And it wasn't some accidental brush of the fingers. It was deliberate, like they'd been doing this for a while. I felt like the ground dropped out from under me. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, staring at them as they walked down the street, laughing and talking. They were together. It was clear as day now. This wasn't just a friendship. This was something more. I couldn't take it anymore. I slammed my hand on the steering wheel, feeling this crushing weight in my chest. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. All the little signs, the late nights, the secretive texts, the way she brushed me off whenever I asked about Smith, they had all been pointing to this. I had to do something. I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. Part of me wanted to scream at her, demand she tell me the truth. Another part of me wanted to leave, to walk away and never look back. But I knew I couldn't do that until I had everything in front of me. I had to make sure I had enough to expose her for what she was doing. I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this anymore. So, I followed them for a little longer, watching from a distance as they reached a small cafe. They sat down, still close, still acting like a couple. And at that moment I knew. Shelley was having an affair with Smith. She was lying to me every single day, telling me it was nothing when it was everything. I couldn't let it go. This had gone on long enough. She had to face the truth. And so did I. I drove home that day in a haze. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, betrayal, and confusion. How had I been so blind? How had I let her keep me in the dark for so long? I didn't even want to think about the lies anymore. I was beyond that. I just needed to confront her, and I needed to do it now. When I walked through the door, Shelley was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware of what was coming. For a split second, I almost told myself to calm down, that maybe I could still salvage things. But then I remembered the way she'd acted, the way she'd lied to me. That was it. I was done. I stood there for a moment, watching her, trying to find the words, but there was no eloquent way to do this. I just had to say it. So I blurted out, "I know about you and Smith." She froze, her eyes widening. "What? What are you talking about?" I felt the fury building up, but I kept it together, just barely. "I saw you. You two were holding hands. Don't lie to me anymore. I know everything." Her face shifted quickly from surprise to defensive. "You're crazy. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's not what you think." I scoffed. "Really? Because I watched you two together. Laughing, holding hands, acting like you're more than just colleagues. Don't tell me it's nothing. I've seen the way you've been acting, Shelley. You think I'm an idiot?" She stood up then, pacing around the living room, clearly flustered. "It's not like that. You're making something out of nothing." "No," I snapped. "You're making something out of nothing. You've been lying to me this whole time. You've been sneaking around, pretending it's all just innocent. But it's not. It's more. And you've been hiding it from me, from us." She stopped pacing and looked me dead in the eye, her voice suddenly calm, but with a hint of bitterness. "You never trust me, do you? You've never trusted me since I started working with him. Always suspicious, always accusing. I didn't want to hurt you, but now look where we are." "Don't even start with that," I shot back, my blood boiling. "You've been lying through your teeth, and now you want to turn this on me? You think I'm the one who's messed this up? You're the one who's been sneaking around behind my back, Shelley. You're the one who's been cheating on me with him." The silence that followed felt like a lifetime. Shelley didn't say anything at first, just stood there, her arms crossed defensively. I could see it, the guilt in her eyes. She was trapped, and she knew it. The truth was out in the open now, and there was no hiding from it anymore. Finally she spoke, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I never wanted to hurt you. Smith and it just happened. But I still love you, I do. This is just complicated." "Complicated?" I repeated, my voice cracking with disbelief. "You think this is complicated? This is betrayal, Shelley. You don't just accidentally fall in love with someone else. You made a choice. And you lied to me about it. Over and over again. You don't get to play the victim now." She looked like she was about to say something, but I cut her off. "You think I'm going to forgive you for this? After everything? You've been sneaking around with him, making me believe it was all fine, all while you were falling for him. And now you expect me to just take you back?" Shelley stepped back, tears welling up in her eyes, but I didn't care anymore. I had no sympathy left. She drained me of that. "Don't," I said, holding up a hand to stop her. "I'm done. Don't even try to apologize. You've destroyed everything. And I'm not going to sit here and let you gaslight me into thinking I did something wrong." I turned and walked away from her, toward the door, and I didn't look back. This wasn't some dramatic showdown or tear-filled argument like you see in the movies. It was quiet, raw, and final. I couldn't fix this. The trust was gone. The love was gone. And I was done. I stepped out into the night air, feeling the weight of everything settle over me. I had finally confronted her, and now I had to figure out what came next. I didn't go back to the apartment that night. Instead, I drove aimlessly around the city, not really knowing where I was going or what I was doing. My mind was a mess, spinning with all the things Shelley had said, with the images of her and Smith, with the pain of betrayal that was gnawing at me from the inside. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. I knew it was over. That part of me that had tried to cling to the idea of us, of the life we were supposed to have, was gone. All I had now was the cold reality of what Shelley had done. I thought back to the times when I felt something was off, but I had pushed those thoughts aside, trusting her, believing in us. I felt like an idiot now. How could I have been so blind? Eventually, I pulled into a parking lot and just sat there in my car for a while, staring out at nothing. I wasn't ready to go back. I wasn't ready to face her again. But I knew I couldn't keep running away from this. I had to face what came next. The next morning, I woke up with a headache, still feeling like I hadn't fully processed what had happened. I checked my phone, half expecting a message from Shelley. Some half-hearted apology or a plea to talk, but nothing came. It was like she'd disappeared, and I wasn't sure if I was relieved or more hurt by the silence. The truth was, I didn't need her to apologize. Words weren't going to fix this. It wasn't just about the affair. It was the lies, the disrespect, the complete disregard for everything we had built. I had to move on. I had to find a way to get past it, even if the pain was still raw. I spent the day just trying to distract myself. I called some friends, went out for lunch, anything to avoid going home. But eventually, I knew I couldn't put it off any longer. When I walked back into the apartment, Shelley was there, sitting on the couch, waiting. She looked like a wreck. Her eyes were red, her face pale. I could see the guilt written all over her. But I didn't care. "You should go," I said, my voice flat, not giving her any room for negotiation. She looked like she wanted to argue, but when she opened her mouth, no words came out. Instead, she just stared at me, like she was waiting for me to change my mind, for me to soften. But I didn't. "I can't do this anymore, Shelley. I can't be with someone who doesn't respect me, who lies to my face. You've ruined everything." Tears started to fall down her face, but I didn't want to comfort her. I had no more sympathy left. "I need you to leave," I repeated, my voice hard, and I turned away from her, walking into the bedroom to start gathering up some of my things. She stayed silent for a long time, and I could feel her eyes on me, watching me as I packed a bag. I didn't want to say anything else, because what was there to say? We were done. When I walked out of the room with my bag, Shelley was standing by the door, blocking my way. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "Can we talk about this? Can we try to fix this?" I shook my head. "No. There's nothing to fix. You've already made your choice." I walked past her, feeling my heart tighten. As much as I wanted to scream, as much as I wanted to let my anger take over, I couldn't. The truth was, there was no fixing this. She had crossed a line that I couldn't come back from. I left the apartment, stepping into the world I hadn't been part of for a while, the world without her. And for the first time in days, I felt a weight lift off my chest. It wasn't going to be easy, but I knew I had made the right decision. I was done. Now, I had to focus on moving forward. I didn't hear from Shelley for a few days after that. And honestly, it felt like a relief. No more lies. No more pretending. I could finally breathe again. At first, the silence felt strange, like the space she left behind was too big for just me. But slowly, I started to get used to it. The hardest part wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't even seeing her face when I told her to leave. The hardest part was the aftermath, the emotional fallout of everything. There were nights when I couldn't sleep, lying there wide-eyed, replaying every moment, every lie, every broken promise. The anger flared up again, but then I'd push it aside, because I knew I couldn't hold on to it forever. I tried to keep myself busy. I started going to the gym again, something I hadn't done in months. At first, I had trouble even getting my body to move, feeling too tired and broken. But as I pushed myself, the physical exhaustion helped block out the emotional weight. For a while, it felt like the only thing I could control was the way my body responded to the pain. One evening, after an especially grueling workout, I was sitting in my car, drenched in sweat, when I saw a message from Shelley. She had texted me. "Can we talk? Please." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to text back, to hear her out, to get the answers I was looking for. But then I remembered everything, the way she had betrayed me, the way she had lied. There was no point in talking anymore. The trust was gone. No matter how sorry she might be now, it didn't matter. It wasn't enough. I deleted the message without responding. I didn't need to hear her excuses, or hear her tell me how much she regretted what happened. I knew it was all too little too late. I had to do what was best for me. And that meant cutting ties, not looking back. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was starting to regain control of my life. The decision to walk away from her wasn't easy, but it was the right one. I had to remind myself that I deserved better than this, better than lies, better than someone who couldn't be trusted. But as time passed, the pain didn't completely disappear. There were moments when I still thought about what could have been. Could I have fixed things if I had caught it sooner? Could I have forgiven her if she had come clean? But the truth was, it didn't matter. She'd made her choice. And so had I. One afternoon, a couple of weeks after the breakup, I got a call from her. I let it ring out, not sure what I was expecting to hear, but already knowing I didn't want to pick up. Instead, I texted her. I can't do this anymore. I need to move on. I hope you understand. I didn't expect a response, and I didn't get one. But for some reason, that felt like the final piece I needed to truly let go. I spent the next few months just focusing on myself. I buried myself in work, spent more time with friends, and started to rebuild a life that didn't involve Shelley. Slowly, things started to get better. I was still angry sometimes, still sad sometimes, but I didn't let it consume me. I was learning to let go of the past and embrace what was ahead. And though I couldn't deny the weight of what had happened, I also knew I wasn't going to let it define me. I was stronger than I had been when I first found out, and I had come through it without losing myself. The hardest part was over. It was time to move on. For months, I focused on rebuilding my life. I buried myself in my work, spent time with friends who actually had my back, and tried to find a sense of peace in a world that had turned upside down. But even as I was moving on, there was a part of me that wanted more. Not closure, not understanding, but revenge. At first, I told myself that I didn't need it. Shelley had hurt me, sure, but I didn't need to stoop to that level. The best revenge was living well, right? That was what everyone said. But as time went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to understand what she had done to me, to feel the weight of her actions. I wanted her to see that what she had done wasn't just a little mistake, something that could be forgotten with a few apologies. No, what she had done to me, to us, was unforgivable. I was done with the hurt, but I wasn't done with the anger. It wasn't just Shelley I was angry at. It was Smith, too. He was the one who had taken advantage of her, who had betrayed our friendship. He'd known what he was doing, had seen how much I trusted him, and still chose to cross that line. I hadn't confronted him directly about it, but now I couldn't help but wonder if he'd ever truly felt sorry for what he did. Probably not. That's when the idea hit me. I didn't need to scream at Shelley or yell at Smith. I could do something smarter, something that would leave them both reeling. I could ruin them, the way they had ruined me. And I could do it without getting my hands dirty. Shelley's boss, the one who had always supported her at work, was a straight shooter. He wasn't one to tolerate drama in the office, especially not with one of his top performers. And he certainly wouldn't look kindly on her messy personal life spilling into the workplace. I could expose everything. The affair. The lies. The manipulations. I knew I had the power to make their lives a hell of a lot harder if I just played my cards right. So I called Shelley's boss. I knew he would never expect me to reach out, but I also knew he was a man who valued professionalism above all. I made it sound casual at first, just an innocent conversation, a concerned ex looking for answers. But I carefully planted the seed, mentioning how close Shelley had gotten to Smith over the past few months. I hinted at how it might have affected her work, how she'd become distracted and less reliable. I even told him about the lunches and late-night meetings she had with Smith. It wasn't hard to convince him. I gave him enough to make him start questioning things, enough to make him watch Shelley closely. And then came the final piece. I hinted at the affair. Just enough to get him curious, but not so much that he could trace it all back to me. I knew it would be enough to make him start asking questions, to make him look at Shelley differently. I didn't hear anything from him immediately, but when I got a message from him a week later, it was clear that the plan was working. He'd started noticing things at work. Shelley's performance had dropped. She was distracted. She wasn't the same reliable employee she'd been before. It was just a matter of time before he'd put everything together. For the first time in months, I felt like I had the upper hand. I wasn't some helpless fool anymore. I wasn't the guy she had walked all over. I was the one pulling the strings now, and I liked it. But even as I moved forward with my plan, I couldn't help but feel a strange emptiness inside. This wasn't going to give me the satisfaction I thought it would. It wasn't going to heal the pain or take away the hurt. It wasn't going to make me forget everything that had happened. But it didn't matter. I had made my choice. If she wasn't going to suffer the consequences of her actions, then I was going to make sure she did. And if Smith didn't get the message, well, he was in for a nasty surprise too. The plan was set in motion. Shelley's boss had already started showing signs of suspicion, which was exactly what I'd hoped for. I'd planted just enough doubt in his mind to make him question Shelley's loyalty and professionalism. And I knew from the way things were going at work, it wouldn't take long for him to make the connection. The pieces were falling into place, and I could feel the tension mounting. But here's the thing. As much as I convinced myself that I needed this, that it was the only way to make things right, the closer I got to the moment of truth, the more I started questioning myself. It was one thing to want revenge, to feel like you deserved it, but it was another thing entirely to actually follow through with it. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about what I was doing. Was this really the kind of person I wanted to be? Was getting back at her going to help me heal, or just drag me further down the hole of bitterness and resentment? I had told myself it was about justice, but now, the idea of watching Shelley lose everything, her job, her reputation, felt hollow. Did I really want to destroy her the way she had destroyed me? I didn't have an answer. I couldn't tell if it was guilt or just doubt creeping in. Maybe I wasn't as ready to let go of the past as I thought. The next day, Shelley called me again. Her voice was soft, hesitant. She was trying to reach me, trying to find some way back in, to beg me to listen. She said she was sorry, that she didn't want to lose me. But I knew it was too late. She was just trying to save her own skin. She was panicking now that I had pulled away, now that I was finally taking control. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was sorry for getting caught. I didn't respond to her. I couldn't. Not after everything. I just couldn't let her back in. That evening, I got a call from Shelley's boss. My heart skipped a beat. I'd been expecting it, but now that it was happening, I felt that familiar rush of fear mixed with adrenaline. "I need you to meet me tomorrow," he said, his voice sharp. "We need to talk about something." I didn't hesitate. I agreed right away. I knew what was coming. I had done my part, and now the truth was going to come out. Shelley was going to have to face the consequences of her actions, and I'd made sure that it wouldn't just end with her personal life crashing down. It was going to hit her professional life too. Smith wouldn't escape either. When I showed up at his office the next day, the atmosphere was tense. Shelley's boss didn't waste time. "I've been going over some things. Your suspicions, they were right. Shelley's been acting strange lately. And I've heard some things that I'm not happy about. It seems like there's more to this than I thought." I nodded, trying to remain composed. It felt like I was on the edge of something big, something that could finally give me a sense of closure. But at the same time, it didn't feel as satisfying as I'd imagined. I wasn't enjoying the power anymore. I just wanted it to be over. He continued, "I'm calling Shelley in for a meeting tomorrow. I think it's time we discuss everything, including her behavior and the situation with Smith." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I didn't say anything at first. I was trying to process everything, wondering if I was doing the right thing. But then I realized something. The damage had already been done. Shelley had made her choices. She had betrayed me, and now she was going to face the consequences. I didn't need to feel guilty anymore. This was her doing, not mine. When I left his office, I felt numb. Part of me wanted to feel triumphant, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like an ending. A closure I wasn't sure I even wanted. I was going to walk away from this mess, whether I liked it or not. The next day, Shelley called again. She was frantic now, almost pleading. Please, just listen to me. I'll fix this. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. I love you. But it was too late. It had been too late for a while. I didn't even need to respond. I just turned my phone off, leaving it to buzz away in silence. I knew she was about to lose everything. Her job, her career, everything she had worked for. She had done it to herself. I hadn't asked for this, but it was the reality of her choices. I wasn't going to stop it. And as the days passed, Shelley's life unraveled. Word got out about the affair, about the lies. Her boss let her go, and I heard she struggled to find another job after that. Smith, too, was not immune. His reputation took a hit as well, and though I didn't feel satisfied by it, I couldn't help but feel that something in me had finally broken free. As for me, well, I didn't feel the weight of victory I thought I would. I didn't feel better seeing her fall. What I felt was relief. It was over.
Goodbye.